You ready for deeper experiences of famous Christians?
Indeed.
And y'all, famous ones like Francis Havergal. Oh yeah. It's kind of cool to go back through. This guy was writing about people that were famous in his day. So you roll this back 100 years, and that's about the time he's doing this. So this is people leading up to that point. And whoever we've heard about in our time, quite a bit different. We're 100 years down the road. Let's see. Let's do this, because it's talking about deeper experiences, and we get to have both of those with Francis and Dwight. So we're going to look into that in just a second, but we're going to start with this on the board. So this is like somebody is going through life, traveling along, bam, come to Christ. Life has changed. Heaven's in the future. What is it that is going to happen between here and here? Because this, other than the guy on the cross next to Jesus who went to paradise that same day, most of us have a little more time between. And this is one of the things that a ticket to heaven, done. That's all in fact, I'm going to argue and spend most of my time looking, if I look in the scriptures or Bible or go to church or whatever, I'm just making sure that I'm okay and I can get into heaven. That's the ultimate. I'm going to spend my whole life trying to get to heaven. That's one aspect. This is a more of a self-focused approach to this. Okay, I accept Christ. Heaven is done. And the Jesus thing is okay. I just don't want to spend stuff, my time, my way. It's my money. It's my way to deal with people. It's my way when it comes to driving on the road. And anybody that doesn't drive the way I want them to drive, I have a right to be angry because, it's all about me and mine anyway. And so if I treat people bad at home, that's okay. Because it's about me and mine, my stuff, my time, my way. And in the end, I am expecting heaven and my way here. And I expect God to come through. And I have been at funerals where that funeral has been done in such a way that they flat out lied before God and the whole group that's there about that person in the box. And they're telling them how wonderful they are and that they had spent their life just loving Jesus. I have heard people who had no interest in walking with Jesus called disciples as they laid in the box. And as that, whoever's officiating this thing from the big pulpit, the size of an ark at the front, say that that's how this was. And you're sitting in the pew going, I knew that person. That is not how that was. And I don't know what God's going to say to you for saying that that's how it was, but there's an attitude, and I don't have to put anything into it. Jesus paid my debt for sins here on the cross. I'm done. Now I'm just going to do it my way. It's not really how this works. That would be over here.
But
on this side. So this is after coming to Jesus.
Okay. Well, I have people that are very loving, help you. They'll do anything, and they're there for you all the time. But they don't serve God. They don't.
Right. They're on this side of this.
Yeah.
That's a different group.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a different group. This is people have come to Christ. Then this is the life. So these are people that people in your family, people around the community. Then there's a different approach to this. God is most high, Jesus is king, and you work for his kingdom. You go, his kingdom, down here it's my kingdom. You know, I want my kingdom in heaven and on earth. I want all of it, but it's all about me. In this case, God is Most High, Jesus is King, work for his kingdom. Heaven's gates are open, and there's a banquet that's set. Biblically, that's the one the Lord's calling us. That's all waiting. That all unfolds up there. This leaves us. It can leave us in a bad way in this life because there are consequences to not focusing on the Lord. There are consequences in eternity showing up, and actually these expecting thing can only happen while we're breathing. Because once we step out of this body and we face him eyeball to eyeball, we ain't got those expectations. All of it fades. Because when we see his face, his eyes look into our eyes, we realize we are not, and he is. So it changes everything. But between here and there, we can get away with this. So I give you that because we're going to look at a couple of lives, and there's some struggles in the life. And Frances kind of goes through that. When you look at her life, she comes to the Lord. She's amazing. Let me find her in here. So she is, well, you know the song, Take My Life and Let It Be. So if you've heard that hymn, then you know that's a good one. That's a good hymn. And so she's written a bunch of things. She's got incredible ability. Born 1836, Worcestershire. So I'm thinking she's pretty saucy. Her. Just wanted to add a little spice to this morning. Okay. So her father's a rector in the church, so we've got that, and she's like picks up things quick. She's got the scriptures. She's reading and writing, and 3-4 years old, learning languages as she's growing up. I mean, this gal is just pretty sharp, and these people are, coming to Christ. Where is that? Talking about that. Converted to Christ, 147. Oh, she has the conviction of sin, 148. Prayed earnestly for God's forgiveness. And then she's still struggling with this, which goes on for some time. And that reply in 148 from Ms. Cook, why can't you trust yourself to your Savior, at once? And she can't. There's something in her that says, no, I'm not upright enough. I haven't done enough good things. I failed to follow through on whatever it is in her head that she's failed to follow through on. So she's feeling this pressure to come to the Lord, or that she really does belong to him. She says, I did trust the Lord from that moment. She fell on her knees. She went back to her room. So we've got that. And she is, proclaiming this whole, that Jesus is really the way. So she does that through her music, her poems, her writing. She's just got a bunch of things going. 149, she longed for a deeper Christian experience. And she asked the Lord to direct her writings, and that's when a bunch of this stuff is beginning to unfold. And she wondered why others obtained so easily the blessing for which she agonized and prayed. She thought perhaps the Lord was letting her learn what trial was so that her songs might better comfort others. I suppose that God's crosses are often made of most unexpected and strange material. And I think that's kind of a reality for most people going, well, I'm trying to figure out this thing out. I want to experience this. I want to feel more of this. I'd like to have more of the things I've read in Scripture, more of the feeling of the Lord's presence, all those kind of things. And she's definitely seeking that. And then she talks about a relationship with Christ that was more blessed than anything she knew. And then some things begin to take place as she begins to get closer to him. The deeper experience thing is moving from this me, mine, my stuff, my way, my time, to God is most high, Jesus is king, and work for his kingdom. The more she moved into that realm, the more the experience entered in with that, and trusting that he had this pretty well figured out for her life, and trusting that he was going to help her with that. She's got, as you read, the physical ailments. She's sharp, but she's got some physical things that affect her, and just trying to get through, wrestling through these things, wrestling through life, trying to figure out, how do you manage that, longing for something, that spiritual relationship, longing for that, maybe not feeling it right off the bat. But the more that she trusted in, the more that she moved into this category, the more she was experiencing that reality. And so what did you think? You guys read this?
One of the things that struck me, Randy, was that part of what she, at least what I got out of this, part of what she learned in her journey of in her own self-believing that she had utterly trusted him, was that it was that thing about the present is always present.
Mm.
I really thought, wow, that's very powerful. That I couldn't find it just now. I was looking for it, and I don't have the same pages as you guys. But she also says, "He who had thus cleansed me had the power to keep me clean. So I just utterly yielded myself to him and utterly trusted him to keep me." And I think that is such a huge key, because I don't know about anybody else, but I very often struggle with knowing that I have been forgiven, but it feels like the past.
Mm.
It doesn't necessarily feel like today and tomorrow and all days that I have been forgiven. And so that part, I think, really spoke to me in what was in part of her, when she was explaining her experience.
Mm. The ever-present present. Yeah.
One thing that's jumped out at me was that word cleansing. It's not a past, it's not a future, it's a present, it's ongoing.
It goes on
Because
cleansing.
you go from this moment to the next, and it's still cleansing.
It's still going on. Yeah. So true. Yeah, that's good.
Found it very interesting, all the languages that she learned, and she's proficient in so many languages. She was clearly a very, very intelligent young lady who, even with all these languages and all the countries that she's been to and travels and whatnot, how her faith in God was so profound in everything that she did.
Yeah. Kept digging deeper, finding more. Yeah. It really was.
And wanting to help others.
All the
more and
time.
more.
Yeah.
Wore herself out. Her family tried to tell her, hey, you need to slow down.
Yeah, she's already
And
not in
what
good
she-
health.
And what she said, well, the sooner the better or something. I mean, it's so cool.
To go see the Lord.
It's home the faster.
Yeah.
God's will is delicious. He makes no mistakes.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah.
I hear from Barry Mooney. Some of you guys know him, remember him, and he's had some health things. But his doctor gives him these diets and, some heart things. And so, don't eat butter. And there's some other, they add some other things. And they have a garden and they're doing healthy eating. But he said, if I eat the butter, then I get to go see the Lord. And the butter is really good. So this is a win-win. His approach is, just like her, just bring it on. Yeah. Give me some butter.
I find myself, in most of my life, that it's kind of like I struggle between being up above that line, down below that line, and
Yeah.
so I really identified with her in that, although I don't think that I've gotten as far above the line as she and I would like to get, closer to that where God is most high and Jesus is king. I used to sing this little song, Jesus be the Lord of all the kingdoms of my heart. And I think I really meant it, but then looking back, I can see that mostly, I'd sing the song, and I really wanted it. I'd end up down there to me, myself.
Yeah.
Looking out for me. So
That's kind of a
struggle.
Yeah, and for most people, it kind of does that. You just kind of going back and forth. Hopefully, we get better at being here than here. But yeah, that's kind of the reality.
But either way, they're both Christians. One
Yeah.
is not a very good one.
Yeah, and it's this that causes a whole lot of that pain and heartache. Is staying here, and then, and for some, it's like, I'm not going to get, all I need to do theologically, and there are whole churches built around this. The whole theology, the preaching, the hymns, everything goes into it is about getting from here to heaven, and you don't know if you're really going to make it unless you check all the boxes before you get here. And there's a lot of that. That creates a bunch of problems in itself. And it's not biblical anyway. Jesus already took care of those things. So heaven's out there for everyone who believes and follows him. That part, just sticking with him is the way to heaven. The checking the boxes are usually somebody made up a bunch of boxes. Some of them may be scriptural, but a lot of them are just made up from whatever group that happens to be. And then it just makes people wonder if they're going to make it or not. And then this is just trusting him for heaven, trusting him for life, trusting him every day. That ongoing thing is that, so that this up and down thing kind of disappears. It becomes more of this. This creates all kinds of problems, as you probably know well. So we're familiar with that one.
I highlighted that on her dying bed, she frequently exclaimed, so beautiful to go. Near the end, she said, oh, I want you all to speak right words for Jesus. It is perfect peace. I am only waiting for Jesus to take me in. There are a lot of people that can have that feeling on their deathbed, how speak right words to Jesus. And
Yeah.
what a beautiful time. I remember my mother, when she was in hospice, living with us, she would frequently say that she's ready for Jesus to take her, and we kept telling her that he'll take her when he's ready to take her, he won't push it.
You don't have to go right now.
Yeah.
Want a waffle? Yeah. Or smoke, in her case. Yeah. Yeah, her last words were just so cool. Increasingly frail and yet still trying to minister to others, and yeah, she's excited to go see Jesus. response to her stuff, like not receiving the money for her books from the publishers. I have not a fear or a doubt or a care or a shadow upon the sunshine of my heart. And later, when many valuable printing plates of her music and songs were destroyed by fire, she said she believed that God had a purpose in allowing adversities. And just moved on, just like we do. Yeah, just bring it on. Yeah, that's fine. We'll move on. Yeah, she did. She did good with that. I am amazed that she, at her life, her faith, her just getting through the things that she got through, and then trusting the Lord through it and finding comfort in those things. And this one, I suppose that God's crosses are often made of most unexpected and strange material. Yeah. Yeah, it's always, something's going to happen. And yet, yeah, here she is, discovering something exciting, something she can trust in the Lord. But it was that break. What was that? She had a date for that.
December 2nd, 1873.
Yeah, that one. And that's the time that everything changed for her. I mean, she'd already come to the Lord, but then there's that moment where the Lord really came in a strong way, personally for her, and it changed her thinking, and she was transformed from that date. And it's interesting, that's the date that she keeps going back to and referring to that day. And in some Christian circles, it's the day that you make a decision for Christ. So it's this day. You go, okay, I was at a Billy Graham crusade. I walked down May 3rd, whatever. So you have a date. You go, that date, that's when that all happened. And in most of the cases of the people we're reading about, they don't really know when this happened. But they know that something else happened down here along the way, and that date stands out. In this, just like her. So that December 2nd date is like, that's the day things change for me. And that's, we enter into more of who he is and what he is in that moment right there. I had a cousin who lived by Sherry when she was growing up. In Rolling Hills, across the street, right? So she attended a church that didn't think you could really know if you're going to go to heaven. So here she is, this shining light, served, gave herself to her family and friends and people around Catoosa. She was just pointing to Jesus, and even as she's getting older, she's just continually serving to the point of exhaustion. And she was a sweetheart. And her health was declining, she went into hospice. So I asked Dad, and typically I don't take anybody with me when people are in their final stages, because there's some things I want to say to them that really I don't share, except with them. So I thought, I better ask Dad on this. So I take Dad. And so we go see her. And she is so thrilled that we've stopped by. And we're in her room. This is like a day before she passes. And so I'm telling her about some things that are to come, some things that are going on. There's an angel in her room standing on one side, and she was in just turmoil because she didn't think she had a chance of making it to heaven. So here she is in turmoil, this woman who's been faithful to the Lord for decades. wonderful and faithful. Her husband was an alcoholic for the biggest, well, until the last 2 years of their marriage. And then he came to the Lord because she was faithful. He had been unfaithful to her over and over. Problems. And yet, you know those people, but they're good guys. You know, that it's kind of him. But when he came to the Lord, he had lung cancer. He wanted to be in church and hear about the truth all the time. So he would sit at the back of the service, and they had pews. This is in Catoosa too, and you would know the church. Anyway, so he'd lean on the back of the pew, push himself up so he could breathe, and then let air out, push himself up, because he had to be there. And it was just getting more and more difficult. But he went from the drunk guy who made fun of all this to the guy who wanted more of this. And it's because of her faithfulness, hanging in there, praying for this guy, and his life changed. So he's, makes it to heaven. And then she's laying on her deathbed thinking, I don't know. You go, wow. That kind of input, you think how much better her life would have been. And she was a blessing to everybody. How much better her life would have been had she grasped some of this. I mean, she was living this, but grasped that so that she knew, no, he really did forgive me. He really did pay the penalty for my sins here. Heaven is waiting, and I'm just doing what he's asked me to do anyway. So instead of being totally at peace like we just read Francis saying, she's struggling. And you know people like that. And there are people in hospitals who have lots of tubes in them because they want to extend their life another week. And you go, wow, this is better than going on to paradise? You like the tubes? Because there's better. And it's just around the corner. But Francis got it. And for Linda, that's who I was talking about, she was just struggling. And so if you have doubts, this would be a really good day to say, I'm going to just trust the Lord. That he's paid that price, and I'm looking to him, and he's going to throw those gates open. I'm just going to trust him, because I can't do that perfect anyway, and he doesn't really ask for perfection. He just asks for loyalty, that we keep him. Gates are open. The banquet is set, and she definitely got to go to the banquet. So it's really cool. Sonny and Linda, but she knows who they are. They're also named Wisdom. It's a cousin for her. That's her middle name, by the way. She took my mom's maiden name as her middle name. Kind of like, apparently, Frances Ridley. Wow, there's a great name for that lady. Anyway, there you go. So you got Frances doing some cool stuff, and then entering into this life that God has for her for eternity. I mean, it just gets better. And there's no wasted parts in this thing. There's no wasted whatever she's done in life, just like for us. Those experiences, the things we learned, we get to take all that with us. So none of those things are wasted. Do this thing, just in case. That's a brain. Okay. That brain will die. Well, there's something positive. But the mind is not the brain. That's the physical organ. That connects the spirit world to the physical world. The mind collects all the things that we've gone through and has it forever. All those things are there. Memories are there. The taste, the feel. All those things are unforgettable. But the brain I don't know if you guys ever walk into a room and go, why did I come in here? Where are those keys? Because this part's dying. I mean, you can make it work some, and then it's going to be some problems. This one, that's us. That's where the personality, the character, all the things that we pour into life here get collected here. The soul, the mind. So that continues into eternity. So nothing is lost. You know, what if I do a really good job on something like laundry or cleaning the house or some job that you're doing, and nobody's there to applaud? You don't get awards, you don't get trophies, you don't get nothing. God sees it, angels see it, and demons see it too. The other part of that is you are doing things that are fixing in your mind certain characteristics, it's believing that there's more to this world than what we see. That God's going to carry all of that, take it into heaven. You get to be with other people who are in their right mind. That's the biblical expression, who are in their right mind. And you get to take all of that with you and connect with them. And the evil, dark, jealous, hostile, all that junk is gone. And you connect with them in his kingdom, having learned good and bad. And you go, remember the thing that the serpent laid out for Eve. So the whole thing that got us in trouble. You can be like God, you can know good and evil. Guess what you will know when you get here? Good and evil. You go, what I discovered in my lifetime is that evil was bad. I didn't like it. It led to negative things in my life, or to whole countries, or whole generations of people. I'm not for that. God's creating a whole heavenly realm in which people can live and go, I know what was evil. I know good and evil. I choose good. Because evil is evil. And you don't have to give me another test. I don't need to eat that tree. I'm good. It sucks. Let's move on. So we don't do that anymore. Anyway, that's part of the thing. But the expectation of what's coming, to trust him, which is what Francis was doing, is so exciting.
I think that's why the angels messed up, because we got the experience that was bad, and when they go to experience it, they can't come back. It's gone. So I think that's what made them mess up, is they thought maybe it was better or something, where we already knew, we said we don't want that anymore.
Yeah. Yep. And then they have Enoch go to talk to the Lord and say, would you just ask him if he'd let us off the hook on this? Nope. They already knew better. Yeah.
Maybe I don't understand. If that, okay, we get to heaven, we remember everything, and remember that evil is bad, and the good is what we want. But if we remember everything, I don't remember how bad we were. I was part of the evil.
Yeah. And then you'll say, thank God for him who's taken that away. Worthy is the Lamb. Worthy is the Lamb. Worthy is the Lamb. Because I remember.
But there's a lot of things I don't remember. Somebody will telling me stuff to remember it. And so in my mind, I kind of piece it together thinking, yeah, I do kind of remember it, but I really don't remember it. I'm talking to him. He's the one that lined me up with Sherry, and he doesn't have a clue who the guy was. I told him his name and everything. He said, I don't remember that. You sure? And so I guess we all kind of have little bubbles or spots.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, that's that part. And it has these little blackout areas. Yeah. Judy does it to me all the time. Yeah, she'll talk to me. You know, the granddad of the guy from the school that we went to, and you know his son-in-law. What school did we go to? Thank you, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have these, so apparently she doesn't. I don't know. She introduces you to lots of people, doesn't she, Les?
Yeah, we can even go to Hawaii.
And meet people.
And run into them, yeah.
Yeah.
Play basketball with her.
See? And she'll know their dog's name and everything. Yeah, but yeah, we got this because, and it'll also be cleaned up. So it's not like, oh, we're going to be bothered by that. We know we have been cleansed. Didn't we say cleanseth? We got to do the King James Version. Yeah, so we got the cleanseth. But yeah, isn't that cool that we get to, I guess we have to do a J. Forgot about it. Famous spirit-filled minister of the 19th century.
Randy, we did A.B. Earl.
Oh, I'm sorry, we did A.B. Earl. I am really off on these guys. Well, that's even where my thing is. Sorry. Different guy. So what do you guys like about him? Because there's part of his thing I did want to talk about that relates to this.
David and I were talking on the way over here about how a lot of these people really struggled with finding their peace in their salvation and really coming to terms with this. And it was like if they sinned even just a little bit, it was like they weren't even Christians or didn't have that's the way they felt.
Yeah.
And just like you pointed out already, the believing loyalty, they didn't have that concept or didn't have that understanding. Because with A.B. Earl, I was talking, like he started preaching in 1830, but 29 years later is when he made that consecration journal, and he still was struggling, and 33 years later was when he had the prayer meeting where he felt he was finally at peace.
Yeah.
And that's a long time to be preaching and still be struggling with, I really am saved, I really am sure of my salvation. And as I pointed out to David, he was also Baptist, and with my history in that tradition, that's something that's very Baptist thing to do also.
Yeah, it's prevalent.
Very prevalent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but right below being a Baptist, he believes that interdenominational meetings that working together in perfect harmony from all these different churches. I thought that was cool. That stood out to me.
Yeah.
Because that was way back then, and it should be wherever, but it's not.
So was there a religious faith that did believe and preach it and we
The
assurance of salvation, I guess? Or
yeah, how they got there. Yeah, they're Reformed churches, Presbyterian churches. You're secure in your salvation. How you got there, that would be a whole different whiteboard. I mean, it just yeah. But they did have it, so the security or the assurance of salvation was built into that system, which is a good way to go. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up though, because his approach, so historically, we'll put that into some kind of a field. Second Great Awakening happens in America and from about 1790 to about 1830. So there's just a spiritual awakening across the country. It's during that time that the missionaries from the East Coast are heading out. That's how we got the mission that's just down south of us here on the river, because they came out here to get the gospel to the Osage at that point. And there was a movement. I mean, it was just grabbing people, and the people that got really impacted during that time were I mean, it's a whole denomination started out, a Church of Christ, a Christian church, disciples of Christ. There's just things that just took off. Also, this is during that time when the revivalist meetings are going on. So we've talked about some of those, and as the Western expansion's moving across the continent, these things are showing up, and they'd have camp meetings in summer, and people would come from all over the place, spend a week, 2 weeks camped out, and just have all day hymns and one preacher after another, and it was just and it caught on. I mean, it really was a big movement. One of the things that came with that was left over from Jonathan Edwards' method in the first Great Awakening in the early, 1720s, 30s, 40s. And so that one was, you can go to hell. You're sitting in this church and you are hanging like from the thread of a spider web over the flames of hell. Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God is his famous sermon, and he had people shaking. And then people are coming to Jesus. But they were coming to Jesus when he was just regularly preaching, but then he switched to that one and it really got popular. That style got popular, and it got more and more popular. So by the Second Great Awakening, I'm looking at the top of 140, he preached a future punishment in 139. He said that unbelievers must see themselves lost before they will cry for mercy. They will not escape from danger until they see it. So he's got to preach, here's this hellfire, here's brimstone, here's the end. You're not going to make it. You're just hanging by a thread. So have you ever been to a place that preached like that?
Yeah, it's scary.
Baptists do it, but yeah, there's lots of, and anybody doing the revivalist style, and it's still a thing. It's still around. There is the Way of the Master. Their method, you can pull them up on YouTube. Great guys, but just their approach is you don't really understand the gospel, the good news. You won't come to Jesus unless you see how horrible you are and that you are in such danger. You won't come to know the Lord. So the Way of the Master ministry method is to talk to people in the streets or in meetings or whatever and present that kind of, you got to be scared. You got to realize you are really, you're not meeting, you don't live right, and you're just horrible. So you need to go to hell. And, okay, that's not the way everybody comes to the Lord. But it's, in their thinking, that's how you do this. So that created this method, which is what he got caught in, and he's good at apparently getting a crowd and getting people to respond to. He must have been able to scare the dickens out of them, so they're going, man, yeah, I'm going to need Jesus. So
People won't turn to Jesus unless they know that they need him, or they feel like their life is bad enough to need him, basically.
yeah,
So instead of fear of a future hell, it's like their current life needs to be hell. Needs to be bad enough to need it. And so, but both statements are said in like this definite, this is how things are, and like it's for everybody everywhere, this is how things are. It's like a
Yeah.
same statement with humanity.
yeah, it's too wide.
I don't think it's true for everybody.
No, it does work for some, but yeah, it's not true for everybody. Yeah, which would explain why we don't have crowds, by the way, because we're not going to do it that way. The Romans 1, we get this whole, from 18 to 24, this explanation of here's God presenting himself. The gospel is, Romans does a great, it's the book that explains the gospel, but 1:18 to 24 is giving a description of God has revealed himself in the heavens. He's revealed himself in our hearts. Excuse. So everybody, everywhere, islands far away, neighbor next door, everybody has been exposed to something. They don't need to hear, oh, you're a horrible person. I mean, that may be the thing that helps. Maybe somebody needs to hit a wall really hard because they're just stubborn, and they just need it to wake them up. Okay. Other people just need somebody to come along and wrap their arms around them. It might be just Jesus sends help, and then they come to the Lord. You go, hey, and it might be just intellectual, or just looking at the scriptures and going, this just fits the facts of the world around me that I see better than anything else. I think I'm going to follow Jesus. All of those methods, all those ways, all people, with 8 billion people, we're coming at this in a lot of different ways. And Romans says, God's got this. And I really believe it. I think he does. And he's going to use different methods. This particular method that you've heard of, and he was preaching, didn't bring him great relief in himself. Like, all those years of, it just didn't hit the deeper experience. Well, yeah, that's because you're cramming this stuff down people's throats that wasn't necessary. And but when it comes to that, there's a realization, and he comes to the Lord in a different way, and he goes, oh man, there's the joy of salvation. There's this whole transition that happens, not by might nor by human power, but by my spirit, says the Lord. And he's got joy, not condemnation. That is a message that we can share with others too. There's joy in the Lord, not just condemnation. Again, the condemnation thing may need to be there sometimes, just so we realize this really does matter. It really does. But his idea is, I want you in my family. I'm going to bring people together. And it's a different approach. What else did you get out of this guy?
I loved the prayer that he wrote in his consecration journal, that very first entry, February 10th. Just his mouth, his eyes, his feet, his heart, his intellect, his wife, his children, his property, all he has, all that he'll ever have. I just really appreciated.
That really is good.
It's good.
That's definitely this.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to do that. Yeah, that's a great prayer.
And then he was honest, and later that year he said, he detects pride and envy and self-will, and so he obviously goes down below the line at points, but I could just really what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, relate to him. That's the word. There you go.
Yeah, that's a good word. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like his the following entry that he puts in here too, where November 2nd, he's at that meeting with these other pastors, and then all at once a sweet heavenly peace filled all the vacuum in my soul, leaving no longing, no unrest, no dissatisfied feeling in my bosom. I felt I knew that I was accepted fully in Jesus. You go, yeah, dude. That's cool.
Because the way I came to Christ was partly fear of hell. I would be, think I was saved for a while, and then I would be afraid he would come, Jesus would come and wake me.
Mm.
You've heard that expression, we're our worst enemy?
And so,
Someone's whispering in your ear.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, it was that way for years, and so here he said, where he said about on December 22nd, where he wrote, I never had my heart so searched before. I detect pride, envy, self-will, and a great deal of unbelief.
Yeah.
My love to the Savior to be very weak. And then he said, I love you, yet I have consecrated all to Christ, and cannot withdraw from the altar. I wish that at a much earlier time in my life, I could have gotten to that point. I didn't, but, and I was trying to remember the other day, when was it that I quit believing that, or started really believing that Christ would come and would leave me behind.
Mhm.
And I thought, and it was like I'd had a really good experience with the charismatic prayer group thing that they prayed for me, and I felt the love, God's personal love, like I never had problems like that. She said, well, you just won't have those problems anymore now. Now you'll not feel that way. But I did, and like I said, I don't really remember the time when, but now I don't. Now I know that when Jesus comes, he'll take me to and so
Good.
I'm at peace with that, but I was trying to think, when was it I came to that kind of peace? And I can't remember a specific experience. I just know I don't feel that way anymore. I'm not afraid like I was.
That's worth it.
Yes, right.
Go with that.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, whenever that was. Absolutely. And the more we get into this end, the more we're going to recognize this stuff in us. This doesn't mean, oh, that just, I ain't got no more. Even when they talk about fear, and I am set, I'm going that direction. And then the result of that is God's peace, his touching our lives in ways and giving us insight into scriptures and the life and the people, world around us. But it also makes us so much more aware of, oh crap, this just showed up again. So it makes us more sensitive to this. But we don't live here. That's the difference. We're going to live here. This happens. And then we're just moving on. Heaven's gates are open. We got to pray. Father, thank you. Thank you for this time. Thank you for deeper experiences for these guys in the past. But Lord, we're